Welcome to learning WooCommerce video 4, WooCommerce settings. Now in this video, we're actually going to go over several of the settings in WooCommerce. And here on the left, we have the tabs, the tab name, general options, catalog, pages, taxes, shipping, payment gateways, and emails. Those are the tabs we're actually going to go over to some extent. And so for general options in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the options that you'll see at the top of that page. And then I'm going to go into the catalog tab and talk a little bit about the image options, and then pages and talk about, in particular, the terms page and basically how pages are set up in WooCommerce. I'm going to touch on tax just very briefly. Then I'm going to go into shipping and set up free shipping and international shipping, very easy shipping options. And then from there go into payment gateways and talk about PayPal and how to set up PayPal. It's actually very simple. And then finally, the last time I'm going to talk about in this video is emails and what that is all about. Now, the first thing to note is that settings, usually you would do this right after installation. You'd go through the settings and you would set everything up. Yet we're doing this in after we've done the product, setting up products and variable products and all that. So why is that? Well, because it's helpful to have an understanding of WooCommerce, setting up a product, setting up a variable, doing those different things within WooCommerce, getting that base knowledge, and then when you go into settings, you can understand it a lot better, what you're actually doing. So in a typical installation, though, you're going to, after you install WooCommerce, then the first thing that you do is you go into settings and you do your adjustments. However, in this series, I wanted people to get a good understanding of what WooCommerce can do and how to set things up, and then we can talk about settings in a little more detail. The second thing I want to note is that I'm not going to talk about every single box and every single setting that is in WooCommerce. In fact, I'm just going to go over just a few of the main points. The reason is that every installation is going to be a little bit different. Your needs are going to be a little bit different. And some of them are just sort of self-explanatory in any case. So I'm really just going to go over the main things, the sort of gotchas that you have to be aware of. And then from there, it should be enough information for you to go ahead and understand some of the other settings that you may need to adjust in your particular shop. All right, with that, let's go out to our demo shop and look at WooCommerce settings. All right, so here we are back at our demo shop. And to get to settings, to the WooCommerce settings, I'm going to go here to the dashboard first. And then I'm going to go to WooCommerce and then settings. Click on that. Now, notice here at the top, I'm at General, the General tab. And what I want to just point out here is the base location, currency, and allowed countries. By default, I believe I think the currency is pounds sterling, if I'm not mistaken, or something to that effect. It's not US dollars. So if you're in the US, obviously you want to switch things over. The base location to the US if you're in the US, or whatever country you may be in, and the state, again, if you're in the US. If not, you can choose your base country. And the currency to US dollars, if that's the currency that you're using. Now, a couple of notes here. One is that if you remember back when we created our simple product and our variable product, we entered in prices. Right? So our simple product, we said something was $15. We typed in, for the price, the regular price, 15. We did not put, if you recall, we did not put a dollar sign. We did not type in a dollar sign before that 15. We just simply typed in 15, and WooCommerce put in the currency symbol. And that's a really important point because I've noticed in help forums, in WordPress help forums and different places, saying people are getting errors or things aren't working out, and come to find out they're actually putting in that dollar sign or their currency symbol in front of the price when they're setting up their variable product or simple product. And you shouldn't. You just type in the number. The reason is the currency is defined here under general settings. So you flip it here, and that way when you're entering in your price, you just type in the number. Second point about currency is that you may be asking, well, I want to show multiple currencies on my site. I'm a global site and I want to show multiple currencies depending on what country they're from and all that. Well, out of the box, you can't do that, but there are extensions out there and different things that you can do to set that sort of thing up. So key point is that by default, it's probably not going to be your country. That's the base location and currency. And so you're going to want to make sure that under settings that it's set up properly. Now, the third point I want to make here is countries allowed. And this is not really an arbitrary question. I mean, you need to think about what countries you actually want to sell to. And by default, we have all countries. Do you want that? Is that really something that, are you really willing to ship to all countries? And the list is very long, and so you may want to define specific countries that you want to ship to. And that might be a better way to go. And again, there's all sorts of reasons for that. There's just logistical reasons. You may not be willing to ship to every country in the world. And there could be legal reasons. In the U.S., there are export control laws and things like that in certain countries that U.S. entities can't ship to. So you really do have to think about that, and maybe not putting it on default, just leaving it as default. You probably want to think about that. Okay, so that's what I wanted to mention on the General Settings tab. Now, the next tab I want to talk about is the Catalog tab, just again briefly. Oh, it's saying leave this page because I'd probably flipped something over and didn't hit save. That's okay. Don't want to change anything there. Okay. Now, on the Catalog page, what I want to point out is, well, two things. One, the weight unit and dimensions, if you are using that for your shipping or something like that, if that's part of the calculation, and then you're going to want to put in, if you're in the US, pounds and inches. By default, I think it's the metric system. So you want to look at that, and depending on what you want, make sure to flip those over. But what I really want to point out here is the image options. Okay, so if you recall, when we were creating products, we had a featured image that we uploaded, and we have images on the store pages. So if you go to the shop, you'll see a certain size image. If you go to the product page, you see a certain size image. If there's gallery images, if you recall, we uploaded smaller images underneath the main image on the product page. Those are certain sizes, so on and so forth. So this is where the size of the images are defined. And if you don't have hard crop, it'll actually WooCommerce will actually try to fit it in for you as best as possible, but you may want to hard crop it to those dimensions, and so you could click that off. This could take a bit of experimentation, see what looks good for you. But if you do change, so after the initial installation, if you do change these dimensions, you may have to regenerate your images. And in fact, there's a note here on it. It says regenerate your thumbnails, and there's actually a couple plugins out there that will it's sort of like resaving all your images in a way, so that rather than having WordPress lock you into those original dimensions that you had uploaded it to, this is going to sort of regenerate everything so that the settings that you set here will properly reflect on your site. So the key point is here that if you do make changes here after the installation, then you're probably going to need to regenerate those thumbnails, and you can read more about that by clicking on that link. Okay. Next tab. Let's talk a little bit about pages. Right up here, pages. Now, with pages, WooCommerce, when you install it, will actually create a whole bunch of pages for you. A shop page, the cart page, checkout page, and all these listed here. So it needs all these pages. Basically it's going through. You need an orders page. You need a page where it's going to show the customer what they ordered. You're going to need a checkout page and all these different things that WooCommerce will need. And when you install it, it'll actually create it for you. Now you could change if you wanted to. In most cases, you probably won't. You can change things around. You can make a different page and just select the page that you want. But the default is very likely what you're going to want to keep it to. Now, however, there is one page here, the terms page, that I haven't seen any installation that does this automatically. So I don't think it does it by default at all. It will not select a terms page for you, will not create a terms page for you. And with good reason. Obviously, you need to create a terms page on your own. This is the terms and conditions of your store. In the US, in many states, if you want to accept credit cards, all that, this is definitely a requirement. You know, what are the terms and conditions of your sale? What is the return policy? What is the shipping policy? All that sort of stuff you need to define. And in the checkout process, you can have a checkbox that says, to the customer, I agree that I've read the terms and conditions. And that terms or that terms and conditions page will be a link and will go to your terms page. So you need to actually create that page. Obviously, you create the page as you normally would in WordPress. You go to pages and you add a new one, call it what you'd like, terms and conditions, whatever. Then after you create and publish that page, go ahead and select it here. So you don't have one right now in this demo shop, but this is kind of an important point if you're needing to comply with certain country and state laws and credit card requirements and that sort of thing. All right, so that is an important point on the Pages tab. Briefly, just briefly, I want to talk about taxes. Now, a lot of this depends on various laws in collecting sales tax, being registered properly. So if you're in the U.S., being properly registered with your state to collect the tax. There's a lot going on here, but this is where you would set up if you were collecting tax for, let's say, a physical good. And again, I'm not going to go into the various laws involved in collecting taxes and collecting sales tax. And there's also European standards. I mean, this could really get very complex, VAT and different things. So what I just wanted to point out is that there are some settings here on this page, but you do have to notice here at the top where it says tax options, there are some options here. You'll notice that in some other tabs as well. It's easy to miss. If I clicked on standard, if you remember when we were creating our product, we had a tax class of standard. Well, you can set up what your tax, what that tax would charge if your tax class was standard. You'd insert a row, you put in your information here, the tax rate, and that sort of thing. You can actually get very complex with some of this stuff, but again, this is where you set up your taxes if you're collecting tax and you're properly registered. And again, there could be a lot to this depending on the laws of your state or country or country. Okay, I do want to spend a little more time on shipping though. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the shipping tab. All right, so here we are at the shipping tab, and one thing that I'd like you to notice is this table here, and you can see what is currently enabled. And actually, it's only this one right here, free shipping. See how it's lighted up like that right there? So all these other options are actually not enabled currently. And to enable or to adjust any of these shipping options, you actually don't do it on this page. You have to scroll up here and you'll see several options right here. Okay. Again, it's very kind of easy to miss. So for example, my free shipping is enabled, right? So I'm going to go here to my free shipping tab and see what I've got, see how I have it set up. All right, here's my free shipping. Notice that this checkbox is checked enable free shipping, so it's on. This is the title. This is what the customer would see when they're going through the checkout process, that they're getting free shipping. And actually, it's going to give everyone, as I have it set up, it's going to give everyone free shipping no matter what. And I may not want that. So maybe I want to have it only for the US because I'm in the US. And so I'm going to give free shipping for the United States. Okay. And I could, in addition to that, I could require a minimum amount or a coupon or something like that. But I'm going to say just free shipping no matter what for anyone who has an address in the US. So I'm going to hit Save Changes. And that is already enabled. That was from previously. Okay, and now the second thing I want to set up, if I go back, let me just go back to my my shipping options just to show you. Okay, notice that my international delivery option's not set up. So let me do that now. And notice that it's off, right? So if I go here to international delivery, right here, and click on that, and I'm going to enable it. So I'm going to check that box off. This is what the customer is going to see. Again, you could change that if you'd like. And here, basically I have it to all countries that my store ships to, but I may want to exclude a country. I'm going to just exclude, just so it's not redundant here, the United States, because they're going to get my free shipping. And there's some more things here that I could do, but let's say that that's it for now, and I'm going to define the cost. I'm going to say it's not taxable. And I'm going to define the cost as a $20 flat rate for international. Okay, so rather simple. So everywhere besides the United States, I'm going to charge $20 for my shipping. And that's going to be per order rather than per item. You can set up shipping classes. I'd mentioned that before when we were creating our simple product. But most people just have it by order, and it is sort of a flat rate, $20 for everywhere except the United States. All right, so rather simple. Hit save. And now when I go back to shipping options here, notice that this is on. They're both on. I can drag and drop that. That would change the display order to the customer. But if they're in the US, they're only going to see the free shipping option because I excluded the international. Now, so this probably won't make a big difference here, but if you had multiple shipping options, it may make a difference. My other note is that out of the box, and I had mentioned this in previous videos, you may need more complex shipping options, again, depending on your store. And in a lot of cases, you'll probably need something like a table rate shipping extension to set those up. So it's you can do a fair amount here out of the box, but anything that gets slightly complex, then you almost have to go right to the table rate shipping. Okay, so hit Save Changes. All right, now I want to move on to my payment gateway. I'm going to click on that. And here you can notice, again, similar to my shipping page, I see what is currently enabled. And in fact, out of the box, it enables a lot of things that you're probably not going to use, like direct bank transfer or cash on delivery. Very unusual for an online shop. But there's PayPal. And so PayPal is probably the one that you are going to use out of the box ones. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disable a couple of things I know I'm not going to use, direct bank transfer and cash on delivery. So again, here at the top, here are my options. And so this direct bank transfer I'm going to turn off and go to this tab right here and just uncheck that box and click on Save Changes. All right, go back to my payment gateways. Now that's off. Now cash on delivery, I'm not going to use that. So I'm going to click on cash on delivery, uncheck that box, click on Save. Okay, go back to my payment gateway. And that basically leaves PayPal. So let me go to the PayPal tab right here. Okay, and it is enabled. That's great. This is what the customer would see as so that would be their payment option, PayPal, and then there'd be a note that says, pay via PayPal. Again, you can edit this the way you'd like. And here is where you put in your PayPal email, and these two are basically going to be the same. Okay, so you just put your PayPal email in, and that's basically it. Uh, this invoice prefix probably don't really need to worry about it. If you're using your PayPal email address in lots of different stores and different uh, things coming in from different places, it's good to have a prefix on it so things don't get mixed up. Because it's going to put a number on it. WooCommerce is going to put a number on the invoice, and you don't want the same numbered invoices. That way you put a prefix, but you can put what you'd want for the prefix, whatever makes sense to use. WC by default, WooCommerce, and that may be fine. And now, by default, I'm not sure if that's checked or not, but if Enable PayPal Sandbox is checked, that's used for testing purposes. It won't actually process the order if you leave that checked. So don't know if by default it is checked or not, but if it is, go in and uncheck it. And then click on Save Changes. And that's really it. It works. It works pretty well, too. You just put in your email address. It will send people to PayPal. People come back, and you'll get your payment. Okay, great. All right, I do want to talk about one more thing here under payment gateways. I'm going to go back. And I kind of skipped over it before as I was going through, but you notice this thing, My Jira. That's actually how you pronounce it, My Jira. And right here, My Jira checkout. Well, what is that all about? It's actually, My Jira has a partnership with WooCommerce. And it's a special type of service where it's actually a pretty decent service. They will actually, if you're accepting credit cards directly, so not PayPal, if you want to accept credit cards directly, let's say through Stripe or some other payment gateway, authorized.net or something like that, and you really don't want to worry about compliance issues at all involved in processing those credit cards, because as soon as PayPal is fine because that payment's not being processed on your website. But as soon as you accept credit cards directly, there's a lot of things you need to consider. So this is all under the umbrella of PCI compliance, what's called PCI compliance. And credit cards sort of mandate these security requirements, one of which is SSL certificates. That gives you the HTTPS in your website. So there's some basic things that aren't very difficult, but there's some other things and some other gray areas that make it somewhat difficult, depending on who you talk to actually adhere to these security requirements. And so this service makes it a little bit easier. There's a charge for it per transaction, but the good thing about it is that it is sort of pre-integrated in a way you do have to set it up and sign up with them and all that, but it is sort of pre-integrated. So if you are considering accepting credit cards directly, this could be an avenue that you go down. And of course, you can go to their website and read more about it. But that's what that's about. And so in most cases, if you're just starting off with PayPal, as a lot of startups or a lot of people do just to test things out, then you're good to go. But as soon as you start thinking about other options, then you can start considering other services like this. All right, so I just wanted to mention that. All right, let's talk about emails now. I'm going to go to the emails tab up here and click on that. Now, emails, what this is all about is as orders are coming through your store, various emails are going to be generated. Some are going to you as the shop owner, and others are going to the customer. So, for example, when an order flips to processing, I do have to stop here and explain what that means. Depending on your setup, for example, if a customer goes to your store, purchases an item, they're sent to PayPal, PayPal confirms the payment back to your store, then your order will go to processing. If it's a shippable product, I'm not talking about downloadable. So your order goes to processing. And when it does go to processing, the customer gets an email saying that your order is being processed. And so same with a completed order. What that's about is, for example, if again talking about a shippable good, once the product is paid for and it goes to processing, right? And then the customer gets an email saying that the order is being processed. Then you ship the product, and then you go into your store under orders and say, all right, I completed that order. It was shipped today. And then they get another email saying, hey, your order is complete or your order has been shipped. So those are what those emails are all about. Okay, so the little bit difficult part is that, so if I go into processing order, for example, and you can change a few things here. Well, first of all, do you want to enable it or not? Do you want to enable that notification? You can, of course, turn it off if you'd like. And you can you can change a few things here, but the template itself is more on the back end. And so if I hit view template, you can see what it says, in sort of the code, what it says. And it says your order has been received and is now being processed. So that's the default message that the customer will get once their product is paid for. Well, you may not want that, right? So you can change that, but you have to kind of change it on the back end. It's not particularly difficult to do, but it's not as easy as just changing it up here, just typing in what you want and hitting save. And so it does take a little bit of skill. It gives you some directions here, but so it's not quite as user friendly as just typing something into the dashboard. But this is what it's currently saying. So at least you know what it currently says. Same with, if I scroll up here, if I go to the completed order, and what does the customer get when they have a completed order? And something rather generic. Hi there, your recent order has blah, 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 been completed. And that's kind of what it says there. So again, those are editable, not the most user-friendly way or the simple way, not particularly difficult, but it does take a little bit of skill. All right, so I did want to point that out because that is sometimes a little bit of a point of confusion, or they don't realize. Here on the email options page, there are some things that you can change easily, including some of the design of it. Some people might want to get this. This ends up in the footer. If you leave it there, that's there by default, powered by Woocommerce. You may or may not want that. Maybe you want to promote Woocommerce, and so you may want to leave that in. So there are things there that you can change easily, but some of it isn't as user-friendly to change. Not a huge deal, but something you may want to look more into if you do want to change those things. All right, so those are the main settings in WooCommerce. Obviously, there's a lot more to explore here, but from this session, I hope that you've gotten a good base, and particularly from the other videos, you understand WooCommerce. So as you're exploring in each of these tabs, you can choose wisely what you want. All right, and so I've pointed out some of the main gotchas, or the main sort of some of the more difficult areas, but there is a lot more there that you can explore as you go through these tabs. All right, well, that's it. Best of luck in setting up those settings, and good luck on your WooCommerce stores.